Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and welcome back to more of the best of, worst of Mario Party series. Yesterday I took a look at the top 10 and bottom 10 Mario Party 1 minigames, but let's face it, Mario Party wouldn't be Mario Party without the board game aspect as well. So today we are taking a look at my personal ranking for the 8 Mario Party 1 boards. In Mario Party 1, each playable character had their own board, which was a really cool concept considering whenever a certain character won a game of Mario Party, the title screen image would change to a likeness of that character and the board they represent. The boards were themed based on each character's attributes, so naturally Yoshi got an island theme, Wario got a war theme, and Luigi, well, okay, I am a bit confused where the hell Luigi's engine room came from, but that is neither here nor there. All of the boards had their own quirky setups and events, and each one had their own set of challenges. Once collecting enough stars and coins for the Mushroom Bank, you could also unlock 2 other boards, a Bowser board and an Outer Space themed board. Making the grand total of boards you could play in this game a whopping 8. From my recollection, no other Mario Party game was able to incorporate this number of main game boards, although to be fair, Mario Party 1 didn't have a lot of extra modes either, just the minigame island and pot of skills. Which, by the way, those 2 modes will not be included in this countdown for the pure fact that they are more so minigame fests. But I think we've talked about the details enough. Let's get to the action. Number 8, Wario's Battle Canyon. This was the board that immediately caught my eye when I played this game for the very first time. Being a fan of Civilization and Age of Empires when I was younger, I always held a soft spot for war games, so when I saw Battle Canyon, I was immediately intrigued and interested in what this board had to offer. After about 10 turns though, I was immediately wishing that I had played one of the other boards, because Wario's Battle Canyon is complete chaos, but in all the most frustrating ways. The board itself is made up of 5 islands, and you travel to each island in a clockwise fashion. When you reach the top of each island, a bomb will force you into a cannon and shoot you to another island on the map. The island you go to isn't random, as there is a set pattern that you will learn and be forced to learn because the happening spaces will reverse that pattern whenever you land on them. What makes this process annoying though is where you land on each of the islands. Before you land, a small crosshair will appear on the map and jump randomly from space to space, not in an ordered fashion, until you hit the A button or time runs out. Whatever space you select, you are locked to that space. The selection process is a lot faster than you think, so unless you are an absolute god of timing, there is no way of knowing what space you'll land on until it's way too late. What makes this a problem is the fact that you can unintentionally skip onboard events like Boo, Koopa Troopa, and hell, even buying a star from Toad. In my very first Mario Party 1 board playthrough, which isn't on my channel anymore, my opponents and I spent 20 turns, back when I did 35 turn games, just trying to get 1 star, so for that period of time, my game was essentially deadlocked. It's just so frustrating being on your way to Toad, being 1 turn away from landing on the same island, just for the cannon pass to be switched and making you the furthest one away from him. The only thing worse I can think of is making it to that island and skipping Toad completely thanks to the randomness of the space you land on. Overall, the board itself is just too random to really be that fun to play on, and that's my main problem with it. I know it's not exactly fair to judge a board game on being random, because a lot of faith goes into random dice blocks and movement, but at least you can have an idea of what's coming up ahead in other scenarios. In this board, you can't afford to let another player get too far ahead because you never know when you or anybody else is going to be given a chance to go to Boo, or to even out the score. There is also a small board event with Shy Guy where you can bring another player to your location or take yourself to the Bowser Island, which, unless if there's a star on that island, there's literally no point of going there. This can offer some game balancing, but it doesn't really add a lot to the main game as you would think. At the end of the day, as far as this board is concerned, at least I can say that this is not as bad as its sister board in Mario Party 2, but we'll get to that next week. Number 7, Eternal Star. This finale board can honestly be a bit more chaotic than Wario's Battle Canyon, but at least for this board I can respect it a bit more because it's a final board, and the process of moving from one place to another is more trial and error based than actual luck. Eternal Star takes place on a giant star that has been cracked into submission by Bowser, and in its place he has installed a number of warp points that go to other parts of the broken down landform. Unlike other boards, there are multiple star spaces taken residence by Baby Bowser, 7 at a time in fact, and in addition to paying 20 coins, you must beat them, the little scamp, in a dice block game. Thankfully, you always have the advantage in this game, being given an 8 to 10 dice block, while Baby Bowser has only a 1 through 10 dice block. So, in most cases, you will always roll higher than him. But there are times when you can get unlucky enough, and if you happen to, you will be saying goodbye to one of your own stars in the process. On this board, there are also different warp courses, which affect which portals go to where on the map. This is where things start to get a little hectic, to say the least. Like I said, you can find out where all the portals go by simple trial and error and paying attention to where your opponents go whenever they go on a different path. This is all well and good and everything, but once you end up meeting Bowser, he changes the warp course on you and you pretty much have to start the entire process over again. From my experience, the warp courses will always be the same on every playthrough, so you can always start on the same warp course no matter what. However, due to how many courses there are, and individual warps there are for that matter, it's hard to really determine which way you should be going, and will sometimes have that momentary lapse of thought which will cause you to accidentally go where you don't intend to, which kinda just makes this board a bit more frustrating than it needs to be. And perhaps the biggest dick move, the happening spaces, just decide to throw all caution to the wind and send everybody back to start. Now that is a cruel way to use your happening spaces, especially considering that the trial is to actually get anywhere on this board to begin with. Aside from that though, this board does actually have some fun moments. It is not necessarily a bad board, just a few questionable design choices. Number 6, Yoshi's Tropical Island. You know, I always love me some Yoshi's Island, but as far as Tropical Island is concerned, I start to get a really strong craving for some fried fish around the time I play this board.
Oh my damn it, oh, come on, no, this is stupid.
Oh, right, that's why. The board is divided into 2 parts, and at any given point, Toad is on one island and Bowser is on the other island. Which island is Toad on? The answer is always yes, because there is just something about this board where it feels like the dice blocks are magnetically attracted to the happening spaces. What happens when you hit a happening space? Both Bowser and Toad switch locations, and you have the sudden urge to throw the controller because you are right in front of where Toad was before he switched. To be fair, this isn't the only board that has a mechanic like this. In fact, there are a few boards higher on this list that feature the same kind of mechanic, but in this case, it is so freaking crushing that you really want to punch that fish that keeps trying to eat Toad. What makes this even more annoying is the fact that by the time you get the chance to switch to the other island, you still have half of the island to traverse before you get to the star, which gives you and your opponents plenty of time to land another happening space. The game even goes out of their way to put a happening space one space in front of Toad, so if you are only one space short, sucks to be you, they're going to switch locations. So sometimes it may even be a smarter idea just to stay on the island, even if though Bowser's on it, just on the off chance that someone will land on a happening space, because chances are it'll probably happen. One cool thing you can do on this board though is, if you're a coin hoarder, you can completely screw over your opposition by increasing the coin tolls for the 2 thwomps, the only way you can switch between the 2 islands. Make the price an unreasonable 50 coins, and your foes will need to pay a hefty fee if they even want to have a chance of switching islands. Number 5, Luigi's Engine Room. As you can tell from this list so far, I'm not a huge fan of happening space heavy boards, or at least when it comes to happening spaces that prevent me from making any real progress. Luigi's Engine Room is another one of those types of boards, but the main reason this appears on the lower half of the list is just more so how prevalent the board's main mechanic is part of the actual game. Luigi's Engine Room is a giant labyrinth of machinery and doors, red and blue doors specifically. Whenever the blue doors are open, the red doors are closed, and vice versa. The switching of these doors can happen in 3 different ways. Happening spaces, board events where you pull a switch in the opposite direction for a few coins, and whenever a turn ends. I don't think I really need to go into much detail about how annoying a mechanic like this can be. It's the tried and true example of setting yourself up for getting a star, needing to wait 1 turn until you can make it work and be in good shape, just for one of the other players to unintentionally screw with your plan. It also doesn't help that there are some scenarios where you need to go through one door but stop early enough so you don't go past the next closed door. It's situations like that which leave so much of the game up to random chaotic chance. However, despite these challenges, as a board, Engine Room is actually pretty solid and a fun board to play on. Number 4, Bowser's Magma Mountain. I was actually kind of surprised how highly I ranked this board, especially compared to some of the others on this list. When I first played Magma Mountain, I honestly wasn't much of a fan at first. However, as time went on, I really started to see how competitive and fun this board could actually be. Maybe in the beginning it'll feel like a giant zigzag of climbing up a mountain just to get to Bowser, but in a way, there is something kind of endearing about it as well. It literally feels like you are competing in a heated race up a mountain path, trying to collect stars on your way. Then, once you make your way around the board, you can just have enough coins to use shortcuts that are scattered across the entire area. It absolutely feels like a never-ending race to all the stars you can get, and for the first time, the happening spaces don't actually block and prevent you from advancing or moving forward. Yeah, it'll turn all blue spaces into red spaces, but everyone on the board deals with the same exact handicap, and if anything, it actually makes the board a little more interesting. My only complaint is that I wish the shortcut and Bowser events weren't as luck-based as they are. Once again, it basically comes down to a coin flip of whether or not you take the shortcut or avoid Bowser's wrath. Although I can understand and accept the Bowser event, for the shortcut it just kind of feels like a dick move because you already paid coins to get there in the first place. Perhaps if you played a one-player minigame instead, you could pay for the challenge, and if you succeed, bingo. You can move on. If you lose, well, you paid for a chance and you blew it. I don't know, just kind of seemed like a missed opportunity to me. Number 3, DK's Jungle Adventure. For the longest time, this was my favorite board in Mario Party 1. Of all the boards, I feel like this one has the least amount of luck-based events, and even for the events that can happen, they are easily avoidable if you know what you're doing and take the right paths. In Jungle Adventure, there are a multitude of different pathways, magical doors, and womp guards, opening up a variety of different scenarios and possibilities for you to traverse the map. Some doors will not open until you have 20 coins in your possession, and womps will ask for 10 coins in order for you to pass, but none of these paths are necessarily required if you don't want to pay up, which actually leads to the question of, am I in that much of a need to go this way, or can I take a detour, save up some coins, and come back when it's more pressing? The decision is entirely up to you and eliminates a great deal of luck that can normally come back and bite you in the ass. Keep in mind though, I only said a great deal. There are still some moments of BS, mainly due to the fact that the happening spaces create an Indiana Jones-like boulders that can chase you off the given path, particularly annoying when the star space is right in the middle of the boulder's rolling zone. Not to mention that this is the only board where Boo can be found in 2 different places, leading to that always unfortunate and unwanted star or coin steal. But compared to what you face on other boards, it's more of an inconvenience than an actual annoyance. Number 2, Peach's Birthday Cake. I'm not sure what it is about this board in me, but from the moment I started playing Mario Party, this was the board I went to first, and since then it's remained one of my favorites. There's just something that clicks with me when it comes to property development, especially after playing lots of Monopoly and Fortune Street. In this board, for a mere price of 30 coins, you can create your own star-stealing piranha plants on the happening spaces and slowly dominate the board with an army of your greatest warriors, as you quite literally just let the stars roll right into your pocket. Given you do have to win a lot of minigames, and probably wouldn't hurt to keep those pockets filled with coins to buy your own stars from Toad, and keep contesting the coin star, but the metagame behind this board is just too much fun to pass up on for me. As creative and interesting as the star-stealing boards in Mario Party 6 and 7 are, as well as the property investment boards of 7 and 8, to me, this board was just able to do both of those mechanics in the best way possible, in just one board by itself. I think it's because this board didn't go out of its way to fundamentally change the core Mario Party mechanics. The star stealing was completely optional, and you didn't even need to invest in it if you didn't want to, or have to, or could, but it was there if you wanted that devastating trump card in your possession. In future games, you are forced to play into that mindset, so you don't exactly have a backup playstyle in mind. I also like how Bowser and Toad were handled in this board as well. When you start the game, you are given 4 seeds to choose from, and only one of them will take you to Bowser. If players keep picking Toad seeds, the chances of going to Bowser are ever so much higher, but at least it still starts with only a 25% chance. If you do manage to get to Bowser, it's not necessarily a death sentence. You'll lose some coins, and there is always that grim possibility of having to go right back to him if the seeds get reset while you're over there, but you get another chance as soon as you go around the circle. It also keeps you a few turns away from all the happening spaces and star-stealing plants as well, so as unfortunate as it might be, like I said, it's not a death sentence. I gotta say, for a board made by the devil herself, I've had a lot of good moments here. Number 1, Mario's Rainbow Castle. Although it's the smallest and least eventful board, there is just something magical and fun about this one. The music is great, the environment is relaxing, and if you want to play a game where the winner comes down to straight minigame skill and the least amount of bullcrap possible, Mario's Rainbow Castle is definitely the way to go. One thing I will probably need to address, especially considering how harsh I was on Yoshi's Tropical Island, in this board, the happening spaces pretty much do the same thing, switch the position of Toad and Bowser on the star space. However, unlike Yoshi's Tropical Island, there's only one star space to be found, and even though there are alternate paths, they all end up in the same place anyway, so this is quite literally the most linear board in the entire game. And as I mentioned earlier, it's also the shortest board in the game, making the star space about 40 spaces away from the starting position, in the lowest case scenario. So even if you do get unlucky and get Bowser on your first go, your opponents pretty much have the same opportunity to get to him as you do, and it's highly unlikely that 3 people will get Toad on their first run. The alternate paths also help in buying you some time if you don't like the position you are in. Sometimes it even helps in taking the first long path just so you get a chance to see Boo and mess up your competition. So basically, even though it is frustrating to get Bowser at the end of your road, it never feels as frustrating as Yoshi's Tropical Island does, and takes a supreme amount of luck for anyone to get even more than 2 stars ahead at any given point. My advice is if you're behind, focus on your minigames, hoard up as many coins as possible, and your next run through the board could net you a stolen star, in addition to a Toadbot one. Besides, who could possibly get angry during Mario's Rainbow Castle?
Okay, give me anything but a 1.
What?
What the hell was that?
Well, aside from that moment. So guys, that's going to be it for Mario Party 1. Thanks for joining me this weekend on this new series. I'm really excited about that. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Also give your own personal rankings of the minigames and boards if you want. I'd love to hear all of your different opinions. But for now, I'm going to start working on Mario Party 2, which should be coming up next weekend. Really excited about it. It's one of my favorite Mario Party games. Hopefully with 100% less hand and palm injuries, it's going to be a great weekend. So this has been SlimKirby. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.